Welcome to the Hunter's Advantage podcast, where a group of budget-minded hunters scour the woods for whitetail bucks and whatever other big game is in season. Tune in each week to hear the hilarious public and private land hunting stories and mistake-filled lessons learned. We believe that every hunt brings us closer to God and that we exist to share the good news. And now, your hosts, Christian Babcock and Jake Gaylord.
Listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonalimbmfg.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today we are joined guestless, but I'm here with Jake, my co-host. What's going on, dude?
Oh, living the dream. Living the dream. What are you up to?
Just doing a podcast. I think it's hilarious when people say living the dream because it's everything but living the dream. People say that it's like a it's like,
that means I borderline hate my life, but you know, we're here.
It's like you see a guy coming home in Greece and you see him at the gas station, like, how's it going? Like, living the dream. And you're like, you know what I mean?
That's about how it is, dude. We hopped on, I don't know, like 10 minutes ago, and I made me a double espresso coffee, and I'm just like, it's 5:40 in the afternoon, and I'm like, I could go to bed right now.
Dragging?
I'm dragging pretty bad.
I understand. I decided not to hit one. I've already had 2 coffees today, so can't be hitting a third.
Yeah.
Can't be hitting a third.
I mean, I'll probably pay for it later. I'm definitely going to be up at least until 11 or 12 just because of that coffee, but it's fine. You know?
It'll be 11:30. Like, you want to knock out another podcast?
Yeah, that's about how it goes. I'll sit on the computer for another 3 hours, but it's fine.
That's funny. Yeah, so we haven't done one of these in a while. We haven't done just a purely internal podcast episode. I mean, it seems like as soon as hunting season's over, we try to kind of go pretty heavy again into the guests just because it's easiest to do then. People aren't hunting. We're not hunting. Just easier to kind of coordinate. So for the 6 people that listen to this podcast that care what we're up to or what we've been up to, what we're going to do a few different things. We're going to talk about this last year, maybe like a little bit of a season recap, like how it went, what we learned. And then we're also going to talk about this spring, what our plans are, not only from like a deer hunting perspective and maybe shed hunting, but also from some of the cool content that we got planned out in trips. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of the fall, what we plan on doing and the places that we tentatively plan on going. So that's kind of the run of mill for this episode. So I guess we can start retrospectively. That's a
big word.
It's a pretty big word.
Now I was looking for some napkins, but no, we're good.
Do you got the bug? Are you sick too?
Dude, so the first 5, I've been dealing with this for like, I don't know, 5 days or so, but Abby had it like 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking, I haven't got it yet. You know, your immune system just sucks. Mine's awesome. And so after she got over it, I started getting like some junk in my throat, and I was like, okay. So I went to Walmart and bought those vitamin C packets, and I crushed like 3 of those a day. Or not 3
the
a day,
emergencies?
Like, yeah.
Ones? Yeah.
And I drank like one of those for like 3 days. And then Abby, she's in the hygiene school, and she was like, well, you can't drink the vitamin C every day, or else it's like something to do with being over vitamin C or something like that. I don't even know if that's
Ooh, I got too
possible.
many
Yeah.
vitamins.
Yeah. And so I laid off those for like 2 days. And then when I say as soon as I laid off of them, like when I was on it, I could feel like I was a little sluggish, but I didn't have any drainage or anything. And then now that I've been off of it for 2 days, it's like full force.
Okay, I was wondering if that was just me because it was probably Monday. I woke up and I was like, like
Yeah.
kind of just felt some lumps. But I talked with Carol on the phone earlier this week at some time, just talking to him about going shed hunting at the lease. And he was like, 2 weeks ago when we did the coyote hunt, he was like, like all,
Right. Oh,
and
black lung.
yeah, well, black lung. And I'm like that too now. Like every 5 seconds, I'm like,
Hmm. I
I'm
understand now. I
not really the
understand.
drainage, but the throat issue. I've kind of had that too.
My throat was like super, super scratchy where it was like sore. And then that went away after I had the vitamin C kick. And then now it's just pure drainage. And of course now it's cold outside, so your nose wants to run constantly. So I don't know.
Oh,
It's just been awesome.
open up the floodgates.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it's that pre-spring sickness. I'm with you. I guess we can start with last year, which I act like it's been very far removed. It was like 40 days ago or 35 days ago, something like that. So going into last year, we planned mostly to hunt in Oklahoma. Like there was a lot of stuff that was going on. Whether it was I dropped for a recurve hunt there, so that was like a bonus tag, which is even more of a reason to hunt in Oklahoma. And then we had some vengeance on some public land that we wanted to do with. I don't think any of us tagged a buck in 2022 on public in Oklahoma.
No.
We didn't at all. So going into last year, 2023 fall, what were some of your plans and what were some of the things you were looking forward to?
Man, now that I think about it, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Just because last year at this time, or I guess I don't know if it's about to, but last year going into this last upcoming season, I was super hopeful because I was like, okay, I have a 150 to chase on my private piece, and then so next year he should just get bigger. You would think,
Or at
so I
least
was
stay the same.
right, yeah, and I was pumped about that, and so I don't even think I put in for Kansas last year just because I was like, I'm going to focus all my efforts on it, like in Oklahoma. Like I want to get one down on public for sure, and I want to kill this Big Ten that I have on my private piece. Well, I mean, that was my expectations. And then anything after that, like if we wanted to skip around, we could do that. But I really thought I was going to have that Big Ten down like mid to late October. And for sure before we went down to our public piece for our rotation. As you can see, that the Big Ten didn't even show himself this year. So I don't know what happened to him, whether someone got him last year or if he died of natural causes or what it may be. But it was a rough season for me. I'm not going to lie.
You like to think that a buck that big, if it gets shot, you'll know about it. But there's a lot of I
Shady
shot,
people.
don't tell no one about this. This is my 8th buck, or a lot of,
Yeah.
or I shot this buck out this field and at night. There's a lot of that. So there's no telling. And you occasionally find those bucks that are up near the creek or something that's been a deadhead for 3 years, and you're like, oh, I was wondering. There's a lot of that happens. So. It's really hard to tell what happened. You probably realistically will never know.
I doubt he's alive, to be honest, because the last 2 years. Now, granted, I think when I first found him, he was 3, and then 2 years ago he was 4, and so this year he probably would have been 5. And obviously, I don't really keep tracks of like my 2-year-olds or anything like that. I'm just like, oh, that's a nice buck, but if it's nothing that I want to shoot that year, I guess I need to do a better job. But then again, it isn't my private piece per se, so I'm not going to keep like a long history with the buck. Because the property in the area where we hunt, you can't really, because if a buck reaches 3 years old, you're like, hey, heck yeah, nice. So I don't know. I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I'm just luckily I didn't have anything that I was holding out for last year, and so I have no reason to really stick around that same spot this year. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to keep tabs on it, but I'm going to focus elsewhere. So, what about you though? What was your thoughts going into this last season?
I'm always hopeful. I'm always really hopeful, especially in the summer. And I got a couple really good private pieces to hunt, and then obviously the place that we hunt on public is typically, it's a consistent place for opportunity, not necessarily like killing one. Like you're gonna get a shot. It's just how you're gonna kind of seal the deal. But no, there were several really good bucks this summer. I mean, Mr. Next Year was one that absolutely blew up and was probably a low 150s type deer, which ended up getting killed. But there were several good bucks on my private pieces that I was excited about. But I was really excited for the recurve hunt that I drew out for, mainly because we talked about it, and I was talking with Jake Ayers about it today, just because I get curious sometimes, and I just messaged him and I said, how, there's a lot of mature bucks where we hunt. And I was like, how many of those bucks do you think make it over 150? And Jake said 3%. I was like, dude, that's depressing when you think about it like that. Yeah.
If that.
But I think about all the mature bucks that we've had on our lease, and I'm like, how many of those were over 150? And it's like we had maybe 10 bucks that were mature, and there was like one. Like, that's crazy. I mean, if you have 10 mature bucks in a Midwestern state, I would hope that at least a couple of them would be over 150. And granted, score doesn't matter, but it's like, I don't know. It's a metric and it's something to chase. But it just seems like if you want to shoot a mature buck that's like 135 ish or maybe a little better, I have great places to do that. But I'm at the point now too where I want to shoot something a little bit bigger or mature, or if it's not going to be like real big or high scoring, I'd rather just shoot one on public, like a smaller one, like on our trip or something. So I don't know. I had from the outside looking in, I had a fantastic season. I shot 3 bucks on private and then that one on the draw hunt. So it was awesome, but I didn't get the experiences that I wanted. I didn't get to hunt public a ton. I got to hunt like maybe like 2 or 3 weekends and didn't draw out for Kansas. So didn't go get through that. I did get to hunt Nebraska in September. That was awesome. But I got food poisoning while I was up in Nebraska. So I didn't even really get to hunt Nebraska. Went up to Ohio in late January or mid-January. It was so hunted out, I didn't even hunt there. Didn't buy a tag, but I was up there. So, I mean, I had really high expectations, but I think one thing that I noticed going through this year was like, putting another deer on the wall isn't ultimately what's satisfied. It's like how you do it matters just as much. So,
right.
That's something I think I learned.
Yeah, but I think that's just a phase, right? Like, or maybe not a phase. It's just a step in like along your journey. It's like a stepping stone, because at first, think about when you first got into hunting. It was just, I just want to get something down. I don't care if it's a buck or doe. And then let's say you get a doe down first. Now you just want a buck. You don't care if it's a spike, fork-horned. You'd like it to be a 150-inch buck, but realistically, that's not going to happen. And then sooner or later, you should progress. I mean, I know some people don't ever progress, which is fine. That's cool. Do you? But I don't know. I think we've talked about it enough, and we know the ceiling potential, or I guess where the ceiling potential is higher and also more fun, which happens to be our public piece. And I don't know. You can't beat that camp mentality. And especially when you get one down, it's like, I think it's different from if I got one down on my private or you got one down on your private. Like, yeah, you got friends and family there to kind of celebrate with you, but there ain't nothing like getting one down on public and you're just like, yeah, just because of that deer camp mentality.
Oh, yeah, that's the best. Yeah, that's absolutely the best. Even if it's a freaking basket rack, like dragging one out of the mountains is legit.
Mine this year, it was a little basket rack. I don't know what it'd score, but
yeah, when you were talking earlier, it made me think of something. Like, it made me think of when you were talking about how you put your eggs in the basket of like killing that 10 and then like not putting in a Kansas because you had plans of killing that 10. It made me think, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently about like the access issue on like having access to 1 or 2 decent properties anymore. If you want to kill multiple bucks a year, is like that barely even cuts it now. Like, you could have 1 or 2 good properties and not even kill a buck off either one of those. Cause like I was thinking about that. Like where I live in Texas, even like, I should try to get some access down here. I'd have a lot better odds of killing a big buck down here if I had 6 properties, 7 properties, 8 properties to hunt. Now, is that as reasonable where we live or grew up? No, probably not. But I was just thinking about access the other day. Like, it's almost like you need a bunch of access to try to kill a good buck.
You do 100% because I mean, 3 years ago, my private piece, like I was very happy with it. You know what I mean? Like from 2020 to like 2022, I was very content with my private piece just because I had good bucks. But from let's say before 2020, let's say to 2018, like it was dead. And then 2017, that property was like pretty good. And what I mean pretty good, just you seen good bucks on the hoof, ended up getting one down, and like um there was I don't know what to say. There's just something to look forward to on that property, but it's like in spurts, and I don't know if that's how it is on everybody else's property, that they get to hunt, but that's kind of how it is. And I'm not in the point in life where I just want to go around and not beg, but like try to get permission elsewhere, because the time that I spend trying to get permission, like, could it pay off? Yeah, but I also don't really like asking for stuff for nothing, if that makes sense. And so at the same time, it's like I feel obligated to do something. And I already have enough stuff going on in my life where I'm just like, I don't need to try to, you know, kiss someone's butt to try to shoot a deer on their property when I can just literally drive, a few hours and spend a weekend in a spot where it's like I have this whole area to roam and no one can tell me otherwise.
I don't know if we're related in that way or what, but people ask me all the time, "Oh, why don't you go door knock? Why don't you do this?" I don't like that either. I've never really
Mhm.
liked it even for I didn't really mind it ever for like duck hunting permission because it's like it's a
It's
duck,
kind of different
it's
though.
gonna fly away, it's
Right.
not gonna be here. But I'm always like, it always felt weird to me to be like, "Can I go out here and shoot a deer off your property?" And even in the world we live in today, it's like with liability and all the other crap that's happening. It's like if they don't have family members, there's a monetary value to that too. Like if there's a deer there worth hunting, there's some sort of monetary value there for them. And it feels weird to me unless it's like family or friends to go
Mhm.
get something for nothing. And I'm also similar to you. I'm not at the point where it's like, okay, I got 9 hours on on a Saturday to go work for someone. I could for the right property, but it's just not something that I'm super interested in. I'd rather go like you on the public route. But that does bring up an interesting point. You said this last fall that you were interested in leasing something now. Why do you change your mind on that front?
Well, that has to do with the surrounding property and the management behind it because there's really I'm kind of handcuffed on what I'm able to do on my private piece. Don't get me wrong, I'm super thankful I'm able to hunt it. Like that's an area where, especially early season, I can go and take a doe no problem. Like it's just one of those, but it's super hit and miss on the bucks. Plus, you are battling neighbors because people set fence lines. You end up finding your hit lister bucks on a few Facebook pages, which is all
Yeah,
like
that's
all
anywhere.
yeah, exactly. But like nothing wrong with that because I mean I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm the only one that has to deal with that because I'm not. But it's just one of those things where the whole reason that I like private is because I want a spot and kind of what you're talking about leasing. I want a spot where just a for to help keep my mind in the game whenever we're like hunting public or somewhere else. I want to be able to have a spot where I'm like, I'm going to stick this out because even if I'm not seeing anything when it's really gets good, like in November or something, because we've all been in that mindset where it's like, you hunt October and let's say you're on like public or even your private piece, you hunt October and you're like, okay, I didn't see anything or haven't been seeing anything. I don't have anything on camera, but the best is still yet to come. Right.
Hmm.
And so like you're not really worried about filling a tag. And so you just kind of do your thing and hunt it when it's right. And then all of a sudden it's, first week in November. And you're like, okay, this is about to be the best time. If not, it is the best time. But you're like, okay, it's still early November. I still have time to get it done. The best is yet to come. And then all of a sudden you start pushing onto December and you're just like, I better make something happen quick because I know on this property in December, obviously we don't have like any ag sources, so it's like not standing beans or cut corn or anything like that. So it's like when December hits, it kind of shuts off big time,
Yeah.
and so then you kind of get in that mindset where you're just like, I don't know because rifle season's already done and happened, and like the deer aren't doing deer things, and so you kind of get on that like mindset worry. Obviously, I'm not one of those people that it's like, oh, I got to fill a tag to have a successful season. That's not it at all. But when you spend as much time as we do out in a tree and like as much work and gas money and stuff that we put in, damn it, I want that carrot at the end of the stick at some point. Just like everybody. So where that lease comes in handy is like, you've had experience on that. Carol has. We know people from that area, and it's like I'm at the point where I would be super happy with an old, mature 130-inch buck, 125-inch buck, right? But at the same time, and it may sound super like spoiled of me to say, but like I want that as a back burner where I know like if I don't have to use the lease, that's best case scenario, right? Because like there's going to be enough people on the lease where it's like I know they have a tight management strategy, and that's why there's good deer, good consistent bucks there, and a good age class. And so I want to go as hard as I can on public, and I want to have the ability to pass those 120s. And it'll take a long while for me to pass upper 120s for sure on public, but I want to have that ability to sit 4 days, not see anything, and then on that fifth day of the hunt, if a 115, 120-inch deer comes out, me not be like, oh, now or never. I want to have that ability to pass it and continue to hunt because I know that giant might be, come out the next day. So if I pass it, that's not the end of the world. I can always go, mid, late December, maybe even early January on that lease property and fill a tag if I want to.
Yeah, I look at them as like ways to guarantee a certain experience. It's like if I want to go see a deer acting like a deer, and not pressured on public or just have a good experience. Because most of the time when you're hunting public, you're grinding your dong into the dirt. So,
yeah,
you do want to see a deer being a deer every once in a while. And you do want, oh, hey, there is a nice 120-inch, 130-inch buck on the lease that's showing up every day. I think I'll go shoot that buck in mid-November or heck, maybe even the open day of season if it's 99 degrees. But I agree with that. It takes the pressure off you being able to hunt public the way you want to and go and sacrifice and try to go after something that's maybe not typical for what people are going after. And it's crazy too, because Drew, who I'm on one of the leases with, he killed that 10-pointer that I saw opening day, that big tall one. He killed that buck on January 13th this year.
Nuh-uh.
He did. Yeah. He shot him on January 13th.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, tell me, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard,
but is that wrong? Like to think this way? You know what I mean? Like, because because I still have that Northeast Oklahoma mentality where it's just like, almost like a scarcity mindset where if you see, a pretty good buck, you're like, that's probably the best one I want to see all year. And so also I don't want it to sound, I don't want to sound ungrateful that I'm like, oh yeah, I have this spot is basically an insurance policy, but like that's, yes, I do. And so does that sound wrong in a way or no?
I come from the same place you do, so I wouldn't be the person to, I think as a deer hunter, at the end of the day, everybody wants to kill a deer. That's the goal. If you're out there to watch squirrels, get another hobby. Like I'm there to
bird watching.
Yeah, I love the experience. I love the chase. It's about the pursuit, no doubt. But at the end of the year, when it's January 14th and the clock or 15th and the clock is ticking down and the sun's setting, I'd like to have a deer in my hand at the end of the day. Some people don't care. They don't care if it's public. They don't care if it's private. They don't care if it's outfitted. They just want the deer. It's not about that to me. It is about the experience, and it is about the individual deer, or there might be some sort of experience I have with that deer year over year that makes me tickle my fancy, or the way he looks that makes me want to shoot him. But I think everybody wants to have that place where they can go and they're like, I'm going to have a good hunt. Like, I know if I stay out of here, I'm going to have a good hunt. And that's not something you can do on public. So you can't guarantee that on public. So the only way to guarantee it is I buy a piece of property or I lease one. And in my mind, we've done it for years, but I always tell people to do both. It's like,
well, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to have that. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fun grinding down on public, but there's a certain point during that grind where if I don't see anything or like, sooner or later the lack of sleep catches up with you. And day 4 or 5, you're like, F this place. You know what I mean?
Oop, drop my cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It needs to be fun still. So therefore, to make it fun and relaxing still, it's hard to have fun and relax whenever you're hanging a stand like that's your only option. Does that make sense? Like you're
Hmm.
running and gunning and that's your only option. That's at some point it's stressful. And honestly, a good public piece from me, like where I think I could get it done, is 45 minutes away from me. And if I'm driving 45 minutes, I might as well drive, a few extra hours because 45 minutes one way. So
Hmm.
in total, that's like, I don't know, hour and a half, something like that. And that's just to the place. That's not even back to where you can hunt and stuff. So it's like an hour 10 probably one way.
Yeah.
So there's like a certain point where it's I don't know. I I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's going to be nice if I can secure that lease.
Yeah, we all wish that I could step out my back door and hunt 500 acres and do it. That's not. I'm traveling either way, so it's like if I'm traveling, one of those 8 trips that I'm going on in the fall, I would like to go to a place where I'm like, there's a good buck in here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a good buck in here, and I'm gonna try to kill him. That sort of situation. Which, yeah, there is another side of that coin where it's like you get addicted to that lollipop, and people are like, I don't want off this one. I want to stay on this tit,
I
like that
understand.
sort of thing.
I understand.
And I've been on it. I have found myself being like, oh, I could go do that. Or there's a 140-inch buck right here that wants to die.
I understand. But like I'm not trying to sound like a David Goggins by no means, but my thoughts on public. I absolutely love it. I love it. Like I would rather shoot if I had honest to God, if I had a choice between like you can only hunt public for the rest of your life or you can hunt only private for the rest of your life, I'm going to say public 100%. Just because I like that struggle you get with that deer camp kind of atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like everybody's sucking it up, but it's fun at the same time. And like that's just something you can't replicate elsewhere.
Well, a lot of that too has to do with the amount of access you have on public. If you were hunting a piece of public that was 320 acres, it wouldn't be as fun, with deer
Right.
camp. Like,
Right.
and we don't have in our private, even on our private pieces, like we don't have a single private piece that's more than like a couple hundred acres, maybe. I mean, I know mine are like 100 acres and 100 acres or something like that.
Mine's probably like 250 total, but literally 15 of that is huntable.
Right.
I would say.
Right. Most of that's pasture. So it's not like, to me, I'm like, well, would I rather hunt this one spot or whether I'd rather go hunt a place where I can hunt 80 different spots? Like, well, I'd rather do that. So to me, I'm with you. It kind of feels like Wild West in a way. It's like as far as you can see, you can hunt. There's
No,
something
100%.
fun about that. But so I don't really have it from the other perspective of like, oh, if you had 20,000 acres of private, it's like,
Plus, it's kind of like, well, okay, that's an exception. Like, if you gave me
Right.
20,000 acres of private, I'd be like, yeah, that's a no-brainer because I would figure out a way where I could shoot a 150 every year. I would fly Don Higgins himself and be like, what do I do? But I mean, there's also like on the public piece, and when you get into that more broad public, kind of like, oh, everything the light touches is basically yours. There's a mystery factor to that too, where it's like there could be a state record in here. I don't know. Like on private, you kind of get like it's not really a mystery. You either have them or you don't. You might be able to get lucky. It's like, oh, I've never seen this deer before in my life, but for the most part,
that doesn't
someone
happen very
around
much anymore.
exactly.
It
Someone
really
around
doesn't.
town knows about that deer, and especially I'm not saying around here in general, but I'm just saying if there was a humongous buck like that, it ain't lasting just because of some dummy's going to come out with the spotlight.
I don't like with the cell. It was maybe a different story when it was just cameras, but with cell cams and everything, like the odds of a buck like that wandering multiple small properties and never getting on picture or never being seen from the road or never almost getting hit by a car. Like the buck that I killed this year, Carol saw him a mile and a half away and almost hit him with his truck in a really rural area. Like we knew that buck existed. I just don't believe that these days that these giants in the shadow, like when you're hunting 20 to 40 acre pieces, like there's these giants in the shadows that find a way. And it's like, well, maybe there are, but there's a lot less of them today than there was a decade ago. You know why too? People enjoy deer hunting and there's like, it's a money game too. People will come in and lease crap and the same guy will lease 10 different things. And You know, it's just not like it used to be. I don't think those deer hide in the shadows like they used to, or were perceived to. Back when nobody cared about hunting, it's like, yeah, there probably are some in the shadows here that you never. And I know there's no trail cameras. Maybe when you get into the mountainous stuff, it's like there's some that are hiding in the shadows.
Oh,
right?
probably, but that's just the difference. I mean, just kind of like where we hunt on public, though. You know, it is mountainous, therefore it does hunt a lot bigger than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because a person could be 2 ridges over, and that deer will never know that one person's there, nor could hear them or see them. And
Well,
it's
and
just
when yeah, when you hunt the Midwest, like you get on an oxbow that's against a lake and it's got the only cover within 600 yards. And you're like, you want to see what's in there? Let's walk. You know what I mean? And you walk, and you're like, there he goes.
As soon as you said oxbow, there was an oxbow I hunted in Kansas. It was right before that big rainstorm when right before you and I drove around, and we like seeing those big bucks on the private pieces. But I was hunting this oxbow, and I was like, I'm just going to find me a good spot. And then all of a sudden, I checked the forecast because like it started dribbling a little bit. I was just seeing how bad is it going to be, and it was basically all red. And I was like, okay, it's about to come down. So I have all my camera gear, and I was like, I'm getting out of here. I walked past this place maybe 5 minutes before, and on my way back through, I jump a buck that was just in the middle of the field right where I was walking. Like jumped him. He must have just like watched me walk and walked right where I was and bedded down. Like had to have. And but before that,
A good one or a little buck?
I mean, he was probably 120, I'd say. I mean, definitely shooter at the time.
So a shooter.
Yeah, because we were on the struggle bus at that point. But I was hunting this field. I literally drove all around where you could, and I didn't see a car parked there or anything. And I walked to this oxbow. I about get set up, and all of a sudden, obviously, it started raining. So I go to head back, and I hear just someone trying to rattle. And I look, and I can damn near. I see a little orange tag of this dude's stand, but I can't like see him through all the foliage. But like he's rattling, and I'm thinking, this man's like 300 yards away, and I can literally see him.
Yeah, and you can't see worth a crap.
No. So yeah, it was just one of those things where I was just like, yeah, it ain't meant to be.
No, and I think if you have this is an interesting point. If you have goals like we do, like none of us are above shooting a small deer, but if you do want to at least put yourself in the game for those bigger deer, you do have to go to the places where they exist more. And to us,
100%.
that's places where more rural, more rugged, like those sort of things. And I think that impacts where we hunt quite a bit, at least for me. Like I would love to go nothing more than to get a lease in Veneta and go and stay with my family and get to hunt with them 4 times, 5 times in the fall. But I know my likelihood of, having a nice buck up there, pretty low.
Yeah. And yeah. I mean, that's true. It's just I just want to be able to. I've done the public stuff where it's like, that's all you have kind of ordeal. Cause like in 2020, that's the way I was. Cause like I used to hunt
Me
catch
too.
'em, and like I got kicked off of that catching property, which I mean I can hunt now, but then like so like that public piece was basically all I had at the time, and like it paid off for both of us like extremely well. And it kind of opened your eyes to like what else is out there. Like, hey, there's bigger fish out here, because we just took a gamble and hunted this piece, and we both shot the biggest bucks of our life at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, a few years later, I guess I'm just trying to like explain my growth. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of what it is. I had a good buck to chase on private on 2021, and I had a few run-ins with it. Obviously, it didn't work out on that buck, but I ended up shooting one in 2021. And on the public side, there's a few run-ins with some pretty decent bucks, but it's when I walked in that way and it cut my track, and then it bolted, and then I had like 2 more that like snuck up behind me.
I remember that.
And then the next year on private, which would be 2020, this is what, last year? 2022. Long story short.
10, yeah.
Yeah. Long story short, my progression on public has been like really good, but yet the opportunities I've had, it's like I'm not there where I'm above shooting like a high 120s buck, but since I filled a tag like this year on I don't know what that buck would score from this year, maybe 115-ish probably, but I don't want to shoot one of those again because was it fun? Would I shoot him again if he walked out? Like if I was rewinding, if he walked out, would I shoot him again? Absolutely, because like it was the 5th day of that hunt, and we only had a day and a half left. I'm shooting that buck 100%. But going into next year, if it's the same thing, where I'm on the struggle bus, I want to be able to pass a buck like that, knowing that I will have another chance eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That I'm sorry for rambling, but that was a long way to say that, I guess.
Oh, I mean, I understand. I really do. I'm probably I'm in like an opposite camp. I think I've kind of been overemphasized into the private stuff for the last, not that I haven't tried to hunt. Like in 2022, I was all in on the public. I actually didn't even kill one on public. That's the only reason I shot another buck on private in December was because I didn't get one.
Mm-hmm.
But this last year, I had such a fruitful season. Like it was almost like every time you went out, one
You mean a
died.
fruitful month?
Month, you could say, yeah. I mean, I was tagged out on October 30th in Oklahoma with 3
Yeah,
bucks.
that's what I mean.
So, and before people called the game warden, one of those was not a draw hunt; it was a free tag. So bonus tag, yeah. I didn't get to do any of the public stuff besides 1 or 2 weekends in October, and that really bummed me out because you guys are obviously still trying to go after those bucks on public, and it's like, well, I don't have anything to chase. Like, I don't have a deer. I don't have a deer to chase. I can't even hunt here legally. So I want to get back into that more of I've got enough deer on the wall where it's like, even to the extent of if like I went out and was like, you didn't kill one this year, it would be okay. It'd be completely okay. And I want to do that again on the public side because it would make my season to go out and shoot 130-inch 8-point on public. Like that would be awesome.
100%. So are you saying that just because of what happened to Mr. Next Year? Is that like a resentment side of it, or is it just like a growth thing?
It's just I think I've just realized that hunting is all about the experience and what kind of experiences you want to get. That's the only reason you travel to hunt, right? Like you can shoot probably the same caliber of deer in Oklahoma as you can a lot of other places, right? So why travel at all? Well, it's seeing new things, it's pursuing new regions and habitats and that sort of stuff. And I think that just going out, sitting on private, and in a lot of instances sitting on a corn feeder and waiting for a buck to show up, it's just not that exhilarating.
Yeah.
It's like Charlie would call it assassination, but in some sense of the word, that's kind of what it is, right?
So we talked about this, I don't know, it's sometime last year, but I had an hypothesis, and not only a hypothesis, I mean, I kind of felt this anecdotally whenever I was like super into my private piece, and that's like basically last year, when I thought I was going to kill that Big 10, or 2 years ago, whenever it was, I hunted private a lot. And the thing about that is it almost feels like there's no growth when you hunt the same private piece, unless you have like thousands of acres at your disposal where you're able to jump around and stuff.
And we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we don't. But it almost feels like you don't grow as a hunter because it's like, I already know the property. I already know this 40, 60 acre property like the back of my hand. I know where the deer tend to funnel. I know, where, like what deer are going to probably summer on my place and then move off during the fall, and then vice versa. Like all that's basically figured out. And so now it's just putting the time in, is at least my experience on private.
Yeah.
So therefore there's no growth in learning about like different things on like how to get something accomplished, but in a different way. Does that make sense? Because versus like on a public piece, when it's like, okay, this didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. I think it's because of this. So I'm going to go try this type of thing over there and see if that works. Or I'm going to follow, this type of sign, or, go the bump and dump strategy and set up like this, you can't. I think you just grow a lot more as a person and as a hunter when you have to put that much time and effort into something and you have that much adversity kind of pulling you both ways.
Well, it doesn't turn your wheels. When I'm hunting private, there is no, ooh, I wonder if I could come from this direction. Ooh, I wonder what that looks like over that hill. Or I wonder if they funnel from here. I wonder if this is as thick as it looks on the map. Like, none of the wheels have to turn. It's like you go into autopilot. It's like the biggest decision you make on that day before you go out to hunt that private piece is, one, is there corn in the feeder? And two, what time do I have to get up to get there on the right time? Yeah, and the right wind. And at that point, it's just not, and I'm not taking anything away from that. I enjoy that to an extent. But when
100%.
you do too much of it, it's like, it's just like last year, it was awesome. I'm like, oh, that was awesome. But I still had so much time left, and I had so much time in the year left, and I didn't get the type of experiences like that I wanted, of like walking into a new piece and just the gear start turning and being like, oh, that's not going to work. I'm going to go to this other piece or try this or try that. Or, oh, one busted me. I didn't have no idea they came better from that way. I didn't get any of that. And so even though from the outside looking in, it's like, oh my gosh, you killed a lot of bone. Yes. But it didn't challenge me mentally in the way that I wish it would have. So, and that would be very different if it's like, hey, you got sole access to 10,000 acres, go try to figure it out, whatever. It would be different. But I don't. I'm hunting the same pieces. So shot one on one lease, shot one on the other. The most fun I had this year the whole time was the recurve hunt. And it was because I'd never been in there before. It was nothing like it looked on the map when I walked in. I thought it was going to be like semi-open. It was as thick as could be, briar thickets, cedars, creeks. It was awesome. And I went in there. I actually had to scout. I went in, I scouted, shot that buck. It didn't work the whole next day. I didn't have didn't see any deer on that Saturday after I shot that buck on Friday morning. So I got down. I remember getting in the truck with those guys because it rained all day that Saturday. Didn't see a single deer after I shot that buck. And the guys I was hunting with or riding with, they said, "You're moving your stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Why?" I said, "I didn't see a deer today." And they said, "Well, you shot a buck there yesterday." And I said, "Well, that was yesterday." And I moved. And then because I got another tag, since the buck I shot was over 115, they gave me another tag. I moved to the next spot, and I saw like 11 does and 2 bucks, and one of them was bigger than the one I shot. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I moved, picked a spot I'd never been to on the map, walked in there, hang up, and deer were on me immediately. And I was like, this is awesome. There's nothing better than walking into a spot, picking a spot on the map, having a hypothesis, and then hearing footsteps and looking and be like, I knew it. There's nothing better.
The reward is a lot better too because of that struggle, that learning process. So I truly think the amount of rush and like the all of the, what's the chemical that makes you happy? Adrenaline,
dopamine.
But dopamine.
Yeah.
The amount of that I feel like you get and is released has to do with the amount of effort put in. You know what I mean? Because like,
reward is nothing if you put in no effort.
Yeah.
And it could be a 180-inch buck. Like, I've thought about that. If I book a hunt to South Texas, and if I have $25,000, I can go down there and I can shoot a 180-inch buck. It will mean nothing.
And I guess we should try to just keep reiterating this. This is just where we're at in our journey right now, right? Like there could be a kid listening right now that's like, hey, I just want to get something on the wall. I don't care what it is. I just want to, like, I have that itch to scratch. 100%. We get it. This is just where we're at right now. And if you're on a different type of, different stepping stone, I should say, then like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. This is, again, we're just talking about our experiences now. At the Hunter's Advantage, we live by the KISS slogan.
You were not supposed to tell them that.
No, I meant we like to keep it simple, stupid. All jokes aside, Exodus is the definition of keeping it simple. Let's say you aren't really sure what arrow setup you should run. The Exodus Arrow Builder will help you build the right arrows for your exact setup.
Or if you don't have time to change those trail cam batteries in the dog days of summer, Exodus has a great selection of cell cameras and regular trail cameras. And if you pair them with one of their solar panels, you'll be set for a long while. I've shot over a dozen deer and a big old black bear in Saskatchewan with these arrows, and I trust them to fly right and get the job done. And they have something for everyone with the Exodus NIS micro diameter arrows or the Exodus MMTs.
So if you want to save money on Exodus arrows, cell cameras, or anything else they got on their website, make sure to check out ExodusOutdoorGear.com and use code HA10 for 10% off.
Once again, that's ExodusOutdoorGear.com, and make sure to use code HA10 for 10% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, exactly. So there is a direct correlation with the effort put in to the satisfaction, because I was looking at the Euros I had in the garage and then what I had up on the wall. I think I've shot 4 bucks on public, and that 60-incher I shot on Kansas on the ground behind the rock was one of the most pumped up I've ever been shooting a deer.
Yeah.
Wasn't a very big deer. It wasn't a very big deer, but
No.
it got me jacked up.
I understand.
It got me completely jacked up.
That one I shot this last year on day 5. I literally, like, obviously I was excited at the time, but I was still discouraged because I missed that one giant the day before. But it's like, I literally called everybody in my contact that would answer their phone, just because I was like, I finally got it done. Like, see, I'm not an idiot. I actually know what I'm doing. I lied. I didn't know what I was doing. But like, I got so hype. And then all of a sudden, you know, I thought it was a lot bigger than it was too. So like, and I'm not saying that like with any negative connotation either. It's just like, that's how amped up I was, where I was like, you know, I just shot something with antlers. So like, therefore,
that's a buck.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I didn't think twice, but I say, I'll say this, like, I like that buck better than probably, for sure, one that I have hanging in my living room right now. Like and it's fully shoulder mounted.
I've been looking. I got on Amazon the other day, and I was looking for a European like mount holder. And I found this one that you can put in a corner, and it's like basically just a rod that comes out of the ground, and it has like 5 J hooks on it, so you can put 5 European heads on it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and it like sits off the ground probably 3-4 foot. And I was looking at it because I have that buck you found this year in the garage with the it's got like the burn marks on it and stuff. And I got upset the other day because it's like interlocked with 3 other deadheads, and I was like, that buck doesn't need to be interlocked with those deadheads. Like, that was a sick, like, I have multiple bucks in my office, but I go out in the garage sometimes and I take it off the hook and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And it's it's a 123. But
yeah,
I thought about when we shot it. That was 2020. Yeah, 2020. I shot that buck in 2020. And I remember how we did it. And that was our like first or second weekend there. And we shot that buck and we're like, dude.
It was the 13th. I'm pretty sure.
We got this thing figured out on pup. I remember that. And that deer means a ton to me, like a lot. And I had it in my office on my desk for a while until I started piling up other crap. But
yeah,
it makes me think about what we've done and the places we've been. And it makes me want to load up and just head to a piece of public and be like, hey, you see something, anything with horns, anything nice, anything that makes you go, ooh, sling.
See, that's going to have to be an out-of-state thing. And I know the people that's listening to this that's not from Oklahoma is like, stay away.
People do it to Oklahoma.
We do not accept
too,
you. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that's why I want that lease in Oklahoma. That way I can pass bigger bucks on public in Oklahoma. But damn it, I'm sorry if there's any Kansas folk listening. I paid my dues in 2022 2022. So this next buck is going to be over $1,000 deer. So I'm just saying, I'm not eating that tag soup because that's going to be a very expensive tag soup.
And I get it too. Like, if someone was to come as a non-resident to Oklahoma and they're like, hey, that's a really nice buck that would make me happy, and they shoot a 60-incher or whatever, I'd be like, okay, cool. It wouldn't upset me. I mean, I understand how people are like, oh, don't come here and shoot our small bucks. Well, the reality is not very many people are successful with a bow anyways. So when someone shoots a buck, it's not a big deal. Like, you're not messing up the herd dynamics or anything like that.
We looked at some of the harvest rates on a few of the public pieces that we're interested in, and it's kind of not underwhelming. I guess
It's
what I'm trying to say
eye-opening.
is it is eye-opening how low of actually like how low of deer numbers actually gets harvested, and especially antlered deer gets harvested on a lot of public areas.
Well, and it's perceived, or it's just your perception of the hunting pressure versus what actually gets killed. Because you see, oh, I drove in, I saw 50 trucks.
Yep.
And then you're thinking, oh my gosh, 50 bucks died. And then you go look and you're like, okay, like not as many deer died in here as I expected, versus the weekend after weekend after weekend pressure you would expect. And it's very eye opening, especially when you can go through those numbers and you're like, okay, I know a lot of those bucks that were killed, whether it was either me or a friend or, an acquaintance or a friend of a friend or someone I know from social media. It's very interesting how that works. And so I say all that to say this: somebody shooting a small buck it's not gonna hurt the entire herd dynamic. I promise.
Yeah, and especially on a public piece, it's like they paid their dues; they're there legally. So, I mean, if I'm 6 days in on a public piece and I don't see a dang thing, and all of a sudden I see a Florida license plate with antlers at the back of their truck, will I think naughty thoughts? Probably, but I know on the flip side, deep down, after I get some sleep, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I would have did the same thing.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
I did see one time on our public piece that we hunt, and it was like 20 inches wide. The antlers were sticking out of the back of the truck bed, and I was like, "Stop!"
I seen the same exact ones.
Stop!
Yeah,
he didn't, but he was driving out. I was like, "Dude, that's a pig."
I was right behind some fella. He was from out of state as well, but yeah, same exact thing. And we were going down this hill, and I was basically riding his bumper because I was like, I'm going to take a good look at this thing because it was a pretty steep hill, and I was looking at it. It was a good buck. It was a very good buck.
Well, another thing on the success rates things too, I thought so I went on that recurve hunt this year, and I was thinking when we did our orientation, there was like 220 people with recurves, and I was just thinking that is a small army of people. Like even with recurves, if everyone fires an arrow, somebody's going to get lucky and hit one of the spine or the back leg or the neck, like I did. The deer are going to die. That's what I was thinking. And we went out and we came back. I remember after the first evening, there was like 7 deer or something killed out of like 200 people, and only like 3 of them were bucks, I think, 3 or 4 were bucks. So I don't think the success rate with bow hunting, we're strictly talking bow hunting here, is anything close to what is perceived when you see all the trucks. Like I think about like the Kansas pieces that we hunted. I guess we could look at the stats there too, but there couldn't have been a ton of deer killed off those. There's no way.
Well, and I already know people's going to be saying, "Oh, well, that's just the ones that were tagged." And I mean, I'm not saying all that. Yeah, I'm not saying that from a poaching perspective. I'm saying the ones that like got shot at, wounded, and probably eventually died.
Oh,
and obviously, people aren't going to find those, so they're not going to check them in. But still, yet you got to think like that's not going to change the numbers very, very much.
No, I don't think so. So, I think when you're hunting and you're hunting public, people need to have fun and they need to shoot a deer that makes them happy at that current moment based on where they're at in their journey.
100%.
Would I shoot another 60 incher? Probably not. No, I probably don't mean it like that. But if I saw 115 and up, it's going to be in trouble. It would probably be if it tickled me the right way.
Depending on the day. Depending on
the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on the day, it might get hammered.
But yeah, that's out of state. Yes, 100%. But in Oklahoma next year for me, no, it's going to have to, we know the potential. We got trail camera pictures, and it's just, I was going through them the other day because I was cleaning off a few SDs, and I was trying to organize my SSD from all the footage and stuff. And I ran upon those videos we got out of that little Chinese camera.
Yeah.
And dude, I sent you a few text messages of them, but I was like getting giddy how impressive they were. And I was like, is it October 1st yet?
I wish. God, we're in the dog days of season right now. We're about as far removed as you can be without being January, but we're almost to March, so spring is on the horizon.
It's fine. There's a lot to do. Before then, and honestly, if I'm excited about it now, I assume here in about 6 months, I'll be absolutely chomping at the bit.
So let's wrap up last year. What's one thing you learned last year that you think was unique to that season that you don't think you grasped before?
So this might be a little drawn out answer, but I just gotta tell it my way. So previous seasons, what we would have done is we scouted really hard during the summer. We found good areas, and if we found good bucks, we didn't penetrate those areas too much to try to find like that individual deer. We just kind of try to play, ring around the rosy with that general area. That way we wouldn't try to bump the deer or just something along those lines. And it most of the time it did work out. Like you have to jump to a few spots, but if you set long enough, most of the time you did run into a good buck that you'd be happy taking. But also there's a few times where you sit and sit and sit and don't see anything. It's just like, I'm wasting my time here. And leading into this season, like that's kind of what we tried to do. And then that wasn't working. And then I decided to get aggressive and, basically walk until I found a deer. And I did. I found a very big buck on a doe and they were bedded down. And I set up that next morning in that general area, probably 60 yards away. And I ended up seeing that very big buck in that same doe. And then I obviously missed the shot opportunity on that. It was like at 50 yards. And it was just a bad ordeal. And then the next 2 following days, I ended up getting one down, and then I seen another buck the day after. So it's like, I felt like previously I wasn't aggressive enough on the hunting style. And then I think that's something I need to change instead of just hoping and praying like, oh, this looks like a good spot. Or, hey, we have fairly recent intel after we check these cameras. There was a buck here 5-7 days ago, or there's a group of bucks here 5-7 days ago. And then, I've sat here, a morning and an evening and I haven't seen anything. So I'm just going to sit here, for another day or two or the rest of the weekend or something like that. And that's something I don't want to do anymore. I want to go and I want to know I'm in the chips. I want to know, like, obviously I want to do it smart. Like I'm going to be thinking more heavy about my access instead of just trying to be like, I need to get to this individual spot. Like, obviously I thought of the access, like always kept that in mind, but I'm just saying when I'm pushing through, looking in a general area, I want to be sure that I don't wind bump them and I only bump them from either me walking up to them or they hearing me or something like that. Because I feel like if that happens, they're more prone to circle back and kind of like check it out rather than like, hey, I smell a human, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. So that's my strategy leading in. And because like, if you see a 140-inch buck and you shimmy up in a tree, you're going to be like, I'm in the chips. I'm near him. Because there's been too many times years prior where I would be walking through trying to get to my pin on the map that I would go and through an area where I didn't think there would be deer. And I'm just trucking along and I see, 140-inch deer and I'm like, damn. And I keep trucking to try to find or go look at that spot I want to look at.
Right.
And then I hang my stuff there and it looks like a good spot. So I hang my stuff there. And then the following 2 mornings, I literally jumped that same buck. And a lot of people might be thinking like, how come you didn't just grab your stuff and hang there? Well, because the second time after I jumped that buck, I was like, okay, he's gone for sure. Like that sucks. I should have known better. Now he's really gone. Like he's seen me twice. And then that's why I didn't pull my stand that third day. And then I bumped him the third day. And after that, I didn't see him. So knowing that type of stuff, it's like, I think you can get away with a little bit of spookage.
That's a good point. And I don't think playing it safe is a privilege that you have on public. On private, it's like, if I don't scare him, he'll be here again. He's in there. I know he's in that oxbow. I know he beds right here. I can get him on camera. That's not a privilege you have on public.
If that public is 5 minutes from your house or something like that, by all means, play it safe. But if it's, even 30 minutes or 2 hours away from you, it's like, you got to get in the chili, dude.
Well, and when your standards are a nice buck, it's a little different because you're like, well, I just bumped a really nice one. Deer like this area. I'm going to set up here. Oh, here comes another one that also I like, it's just a lot easier in that sense to, because on private, a lot of the times you have your eyes gazed and transfixed on only one buck. You're like, I really want to kill that
100%.
buck. And if I bump him, it's over for me. It's totally, you don't have that mindset on public. There's 50 bucks in here that would make me happy. Depending on how big the piece, there's 100 in here that'll make me happy. And that's one of the experiences that I want to have again, is that mystery of like, you hear a footstep and you're like, ooh, and you just can't wait to see what's on top of its noggin. I think this season I've realized, in the past, I had this mindset of like, you got to kill a deer. Not only you got to kill a deer, you got to kill two. If you can kill two, why not kill three? If you can kill three, why not try to kill four? And I've just realized the fun of it is not in the number of deer that you can kill. It's in the experiences that you can have. And so I know that I want to go chase deer on public. I want to try to shoot a nice buck on private. I want to experience new states on public and chase them that way. And so what I learned this year is just, it's not the inches or the amount of bucks that makes you happy. It's half the time it's who you're doing it with and how you're doing it. That matters a lot. And so I want to just refocus a lot of my time back to that, back to how we hunted, honestly, for the last 3 or 4 years, but I just didn't get to do a lot of it this year. And not getting to do a lot of it this year, it's like, oh, it must be nice, you're tagged out. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But I would trade one of these in to be able to try again, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
And it'd be the smallest one, of course. I'd trade the smallest one in to be able to try again. But
yeah, but that's the recurve though.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade that one in.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, I'd trade a 140-inch buck for that recurve buck. That one meant a lot. That one was awesome. Which, yeah, that's what I learned, man. I didn't get to hunt deer in a way that made me super challenged. So I didn't learn a ton this year. And I feel like that's a wasted opportunity. Now, to be fair, I tried. I went to Nebraska and I tried to hunt, didn't get to hunt. I went to Ohio. It was kind of a turd too. So I tried to get that, but it just didn't work for me in the cards. I guess it just wasn't in the cards for me.
Yeah.
But
again, that's its experiences. I think when you were, let's say this is 2024, that was 2020. I bet you the summer of 2022 leading up to the 2023 season, you were probably wanting to kill as many bucks as you could, though. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's like one of those things where it's just like a growing, it's just, it was just that part of your journey. You achieved what you wanted to achieve. And now it's like, you have a new mindset around it just because it's like, you thought that's what you needed to be fulfilled. And again, all this hunting thing is just like a hamster wheel, right? Like, I don't think you can truly be satisfied because there's always that next buck, or there's always, a different way to do things. And so like, do you get fulfillment and enjoyment out of it? Absolutely. But it is relatively a hamster wheel and it sucks,
right?
But it's also the great thing about it. And so it's just like each time there's an itch you want to scratch, because here in 5 years, it might be like, okay, now I want to shoot a 140 or above with my recurve from the ground. It might be something dumb like that, but it's like, that's that hamster wheel. So there's no shame in taking, 3 on private, and obviously you had that one draw hunt. Like, there's no shame in that, but now it's just focusing on what that next itch is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I did get to shoot my biggest buck ever on the ground. I did get to shoot a buck over a decoy. Never done that before. That's a new experience. Got to shoot one with a recurve. Had never done that before. So there is a lot of like itches that were scratched, but I realized like, hey, what was missing in this equation and what I would like to do. And it's all seasons, right? Like, you over index. If you got a giant, you got a 180, you better spend most of your time trying to hunt that deer on
100%
private. If you got no deer and no access, you better be over here on public trying pretty hard to find another one. So it's all seasons and it ebbs and flows. But for this next season, that's what I want out of it.
I'll tell you one thing though that hadn't changed for 3 years is like that public grind. That has been like set in stone for a good minute, I'll be honest, because like each time we go down there, and again, I know it's the community aspect of it, but like, I can't emphasize enough, like, if you don't have a group of friends or a deer camp you can go to, do your best to try to start one. I mean, trust me, I'm not social whatsoever, and I'm thankful that I still hunt with a lot of the people that I grew up with. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if you don't have that community or that support system where can create a deer camp, freaking, I don't know, get with us. And obviously, we're pretty hush hush about our spots, but it's like, maybe we can help link you up with, a group of people, or, I don't know, just try to find people that you can experience that with, because I guarantee you that'll be the best way that you can hunt.
And if you shoot a doe and a forky, you guys will still be jacked up. High
Oh,
five.
hell yeah.
100%. Yeah. So let's talk about the spring a little bit.
All right, go for it.
So I think we got a lot of cool stuff from a content perspective. Hold on, I'm about to sneeze enough to blow this microphone away. And it went away, thank God. I think we got some stuff in the spring from a content perspective that's pretty exciting. We're obviously going back to Total Archery Challenge. That's in April here in Oklahoma. I'm going to get to do some shed hunting this weekend in Texas. Lauren and I went last weekend and found 2 in like 30 minutes. It looked like you and Abby found some too, right?
Yeah, we went. We were mainly just going out on my brother's land to give our golden doodle a little bit of exercise, because the man's getting plump in this house. But we were just walking around with them, and we ended up stumbling upon one. I was mainly just trying to pull all the cameras from last year.
Oh, nice. So here's a question: Do you plan on doing any shed hunting this year? I know you're not the shed king, or you don't care about sheds like probably the average guy does. But do you plan on getting out?
Man, I don't really care about sheds, but if I find me a nice deadhead, that gets me jacked. I'll be honest, even though it's a sad thing, because that's as big as that deer's going to get. But I think whenever we scout, I don't know if we plan on doing any posts. I mean, I think the quickest we can get down to our public would probably be, we got tack in April, May or June, but by that time you might as well throw out some cameras, and that ain't really postseason scouting.
That's after green up. That's not scouting.
I don't think so. And I think my shed hunting is going to consist of, whenever we go out there to throw out some cameras for the summer, if we kick over one, then that's probably the way it's going to be.
Well, Carol and I are going to the lease the 22nd. So the weekend after we do on our podcast tour.
Oh yeah.
We're going up there. So, I mean, it's a freaking drive, but you're always invited. We're going to try to find Carol's cemetery of dead bucks he shot this year.
I'll tell you what, if I can meet Carol in Tulsa and I ride with him, I'll go.
Yeah, well, y'all figure that out, because I'm pretty confident Jake shot a buck across the river, and then Carol shot 2. Out of those 3, I'm confident we're gonna find one of them.
Yeah,
like there's no doubt about that. But yeah, so we'll do a little bit of shed hunting there. We are going on like a North Texas podcast tour, I guess you could call it. So we're gonna podcast with a few different folks. So we're gonna do like 3 or 4 in a weekend in person.
For sure 3, but we're gonna try to knock out 4.
Yeah, for sure 3 right now. I'll try to knock out 4. So
that's they're good exciting guests too. Like
I think so too.
Yeah, they're A tier. So that's gonna be really fun.
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll shoot tack, and then shoot, dude. By the time the spring's over, it's freaking almost deer season again. In my mind, even though like May's do what?
Are you not gonna win the turkey competition or what?
Dude, I've had several people, like, in that group text, people try to kind of stir it up, and I'm like, I'm the wrong guy to try to stir it up to. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, this bear's hibernating right now. There ain't no poking me.
I just, turkey's awesome, and if it was something I had like a good place to go, or like time to do it, and I didn't have to travel, it's just not something I want to drive 8 hours one way or 7 hours one way to hunt.
Right.
So I may or may not go turkey hunting. The season goes all the way to like May now, so maybe I'll get out, but who knows? We'll see. But that's the spring in a nutshell. We got some cool stuff coming up. Let's briefly talk about the fall, and then we can get out of here. But we're obviously putting in for Kansas. I'm excited for that.
I know what I'm going to do. Obviously, I'm going to put in for the units we all talked about, but like aside of me still wanting to go to the units we did in 2022, just to have that shoulder, because I'm like, I seen really good bucks there, but I just didn't seal the deal.
Yeah, I get that. The settle the score kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. I'm just similar to what we talked about earlier, getting to a place of where it's a little,
Quality over quantity.
a little more rural. You know, that stuff's important to me. I mean, but also from my perspective, I have to drive 8 plus either way. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter to me to drive a little further. It doesn't bother me one bit. So hopefully we'll get to spend some time in Kansas this year. That's me and Peyton have a point. You don't have a point. I still think it's like 50-50
You think so?
for you probably. Uh, yeah, I don't know how me and Peyton
But
have a point. But
but if
Newly
we all
and
put in together, that's the thing.
if we all put them together, I don't know. I don't know how that affects the odds, nor do I think they publish how that affects the odds. I don't.
Yeah.
But I know that Newly and so Peyton's cousin and a couple of his buddies, they're like on 3 points right now. They haven't drawn out in 3 years.
See,
2 or 3 years.
that's kind of what I'm thinking, and like I feel bad if I put in with you guys, but at the same time, if you guys put in and I don't, or yeah, if we don't put in together, and if you guys draw out, or let's say for some reason I put in as a solo, and for some reason I draw out and you guys don't, then it's like if I'm trying to go up there by myself, that's a 8-hour car ride by myself, and it's like I could just drive an hour over the border and you see that. So it's either I put in with you guys in the same units, or I put in solo closer to my house.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I'm probably gonna hunt Nebraska either way, just because I have a vengeance or a personal vendetta with Nebraska with some velvet muleys. So we'll see. Kansas is exciting. I put in for New Mexico elk. I'm gonna put in for Montana elk. I'm gonna put in for I put in for Tennessee elk last year. Obviously, we'll put in for all the Oklahoma antelope and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. Oh, I also have points in Wyoming for like a bear and not a bear, for a sheep and a antelope and that sort of stuff. So I'm just gonna keep
Damn,
putting in.
you're like Oprah Winfrey over here. Point for you. Point for you. Everybody gets a point.
A lot of those ones are like you don't even have to put in for the draw. You can just buy a point.
Oh,
And
really?
so a point's like $20. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy a point, you know? And then when I get on the odds and they're like in my favor, like you can actually draw a unit, I'm like, okay, now I'll put in, you know?
Mm,
But they limit it. It's not like you can go in and buy 5 points at one time. It's like you can buy one this
right.
year and then one next year. So it's kind of sucks how much you have to plan for this crap. Like it sucks that you can't wake up and be like, I want to go hunt
Yeah.
an antelope. You just can't.
Those
There's
days
just
are over.
those days are gone. And so, like with us in Nebraska antelope last year, I would have loved. Oh, I'll probably put in for Nebraska antelope. Yeah, I'll probably put in for that too. So we'll let the God decide what happens there. But it's exciting.
Yeah. So if we don't, let's say we don't draw out for Kansas, what's the next move there? I mean, obviously, I know you said Nebraska, but
Something over the counter for sure. I think
yeah.
like Arkansas. Just talking about putting ourselves in the game. We're going to take ourselves away from the game.
I don't think that's on the ticket this year. I mean, in all
A
honesty.
Missouri possibly. I know in Illinois is over the counter. One of those.
Ohio's over the counter too.
Yeah, dude, that's a poke. That's you got Illinois, Indiana, Ohio on the other side. So
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true.
You're still probably 15 hours from Ohio.
Yeah. Oh, I know. From when we drove the ATA in St. Louis, I forget how long that was.
That was like 5.5, 6?
Yeah,
5.5 or
but
6?
then it was like another 6 from there. So it's
You're probably
yeah,
12.
11,
Yeah.
12 hours.
Yeah, that's too far. That's too far.
Yeah.
So we'll try that stuff. It'll be fun.
We'll figure it out.
I'm already looking forward to fall. I really do want to I'm going shed hunting this weekend. I want to put my hands on the freaking antler. But so let's briefly talk about this.
Oh, hey, how about this?
What?
Maybe we should have opened up with this though. You got your buck scored, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I did, yeah. I got my Pope and Young paperwork sitting over there. Let me
well, quick. Damn, we really should have talked about this in the beginning. That would have been a good opener. We just haven't done these in a while, so we're kind of
we're off our game
a little bit.
All right, so we scored I had 2 scored. So the opening day buck that he ended up being like 140, but that one side's like weak. It's like really weak. It's like he'd be like a low 120s if. So they decided, like, let's not score him. He's not going to make Pope and Young. He won't net that. And then my recurve buck was like somewhere right there, low 120s, I think is what they roughed him at. So they didn't score him either, which there was a lot of deer in there to get scored. So I understand why they didn't, like, if it's close, let's not, sort of thing.
Right.
So I had 2 that they scored. My Oklahoma buck he ended up grossing 148 and an eighth, or sorry, 148 and no eighths, and netting 133. So he made Pope and Young.
Was he the one with 24 beams, or was that your Texas?
No, that's my Texas buck. Longest beam on the Oklahoma buck, the 6.7x5, was 22 and 2/8, which is still pretty good. The issue that he had from a scoring perspective was tine length. Like,
right,
that longest tine was 7 inches.
The longest tine was 7.
Yeah,
that's wild.
And he was missing that one eye guard had. One of the eye guards was 3 7/8, and the other was like 2 1/8. So he lost like almost 2 inches on the eye guard too. That broke one, the one that was broke off. So,
run through the stats real quick. Like what was the width, and then obviously you said the beam lengths, but then just kind of shoot down the tines real quick. Just so
inside spread was 16 and 2/8, 22 on one beam, 21 on the other. Longest eye guard was 3 7/8. Then on one side he was 7. He went 7 on the G2, 6 G3, 5 4 3, and then on the other side he was that one eye guard was broke and went 6 6 7 for the G2, G3, G4. His biggest mass measurement was 5 2/8.
That's good. Was that around the bases?
Yeah, that's the base. So it went 5 2/8, 4 4/8, 4 6/8, and 4 inches. So he had a lot of mass, and then 4 6/8, 4 4 3 7/8. So he had
carried really well.
Yeah, so he had 12, 15, and that's 12, 17, 32, and then it probably had like 35 inches of mass, maybe a little more than that, which is good. He had really good mass. The other buck, everybody thought the Texas buck was like not as good of a scoring deer as as he was, which I roughed him, so I knew kind of what he was. But most of so we did where everybody wrote the score on a dollar bill, right? Everybody guessed. Was there a guess over 140?
I don't think so. I think the highest guess was like 138, and I think Tanner did that.
So that deer was 16 7/8 inches wide. The beams are really what they always say, like what makes a deer high scoring, and it's long beams and a lot of tine length, right? And so he had 23-inch beams, 23 3/8, and then 23 2/8. And then longest tine was 9, 9.83. He went 3-inch eye guards, 4-inch around the bases on the mass, and then 3s everywhere else. So
what did he gross and what did he net again?
He grossed 140 and 5/8, and he netted 132 and 5/8.
Okay, I think that's what we did. I think we did the net.
No, everybody did gross.
Are you sure? We did net on one of them.
It wasn't this deer.
It might have been your Oklahoma buck, or heck, it could have been Mason's or Justin's, to be honest. But I don't know. Maybe not.
Well,
because I'm pretty sure I was like 133 or 134.
Well, everybody, after they saw how long the beams and stuff are, they're like, "You guys want to do grow?"
Yeah,
yeah. That's what it was. But those ones, that was sick. I mean, then Justin got his scored, Mason got his scored. There was a lot of Pope and Young scored that day.
I'm just saying for people on YouTube that think we don't score, and when I say we, I'm not the best at scoring. So Christian does all of our tailgate scores. We grossed. And we even got footage of it. We grossed Mason's buck at 144. Okay. Guess what Mason's buck grossed?
144.
144. Yeah.
I told you. And then Justin's I grossed at 144, and it was like 142 and 7/8.
It was 143.
And then the buck, the Texas buck, I grossed at 140, and I said, "Hey, that's a 140-inch buck." That's what I told, or 140 or 141. It was 140.
Your Oklahoma buck was 150 and ended up grossing 148.
148, yep. Yeah, I was close on all of them. Really close. And that's like with a piece of tape, like that's the same on it. I don't trace the beam and hold, I'm like rough scoring them. It's not an exact science. So it's pretty good. I'd say we're within 5 on anything.
Yeah.
Unless
it's a good
crazy
feeling though.
non-typicals.
It's a good feeling because like now it's like if someone gets one down in camp, you're like, let me put a tape on it, and it's relatively close.
Right.
Because we've all had those people that are like, put a tape on something, and you're like, you seem about 15 inches off, to be honest. But
yeah, and it's on the addition side.
Yes.
Did you add the spread twice? You only get that once.
Yeah.
That's funny. I did want to talk about this. So this podcast will come out in early March. We have a new sponsor on the show.
Ooh.
So pretty exciting. We are now partnered up with a Limit Shield Hunt and Citrus Safe. So some awesome guys that we've been having conversations with for the last month and a half, something like that.
About roughly.
Yeah, and so they're now a sponsor of the show. So we're going to be using a Limit Shield. I've been using their core body foam. It was funny because when we were talking with Tommy, I said, you can't smell, which is hilarious. They found that hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, I was like, dude, on everyday activities, whether it's lifting or jiu-jitsu or just walking around, I smell like 2 onions that had sex. Like, it's disgusting. And you don't know what an onion smells like, so you got to trust me. It's a nasty smell. It's one of the reasons I hate eating them. And I've been using that core body foam, and I do not sweat, and I do not smell like that anymore. So I was like, that's enough for me just to believe in it. But yeah, they'll be a sponsor this year, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, I think more than anything, I like that that they seem like really good, down to earth people. Just like Matt and Chase that Out on a Limb, Exodus guys. They're all. I'm very happy with who we're partnered with right now.
Right. And I think one of the things for us too, and what we had in the first conversation with them is like, if anyone's seen some of our clips, they've seen our thoughts on scent control stuff,
100%.
And when we got in that meeting with them, I'm like, have you guys seen our stuff on scent control? And because we've made fun of stuff in the past, and we're like, what are you all's thoughts on it? And they're like, well, it's not, you're never going to fool a deer's nose. I'm like, all right, this is going well. And they were like, this is just, another precaution you can take, another part of layered security, just like in your house, right? I mean, you're not going to fool a deer's nose, but anything you can do to try to just give you a little bit more margin, it could be the difference, just like anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like shooting a heavy arrow, just like hand sharpening your broadheads. They're probably sharp enough to kill something, but what if they're not? That sort of situation. So, yeah, we're excited about that. And is there anything else we need to cover? I think we're caught up on most stuff. We had a few pretty cool podcasts come out recently, whether it's the Johnny King buck or the Mitch Rumpala buck that we talked with Richard Smith about. So if you haven't heard those episodes, make sure to go check them out. But I think that's all for this episode. Hopefully everybody's having a good spring.
And if anyone plans on being at TAC or whatever, shoot us a message. We'd love to meet up, and you give us a few pointers, or let us borrow some arrows, because we're probably going to need them.
Yeah, exactly. I hope Exodus sends us some arrows, or we're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Be pulling some out of trees.
Yeah, I've done that before. Yeah, but with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Bye.